Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with my review for Hellblade. Hellblade is a very special game. It's a title that shakes up a lot of what our industry has established. We tend to have the indies which experiment on various themes to appeal to all sorts of niches and hardcore audiences, while the AAA goes for the big production values and multi-dozen hour experiences. Gone are the days where we'd have the games sitting at the $30 to $40 price range that hit almost a best of both worlds. Some production quality perks of AAA development, but the ability to experiment like an indie, and even more so if you're doing what Ninja Theory did with Hellblade and self-published the title. Welcome back to the world of AA gaming. I knew I was in for something different when the game's introduction credits were fading in, and the first name I saw was for a mental health advisor. Not the studio name, not the project's director, a mental health advisor. You play as Senua, a warrior who suffers from psychosis and is on a mission to save the soul of her lost lover. For those unaware, as I personally was prior to playing this game, psychosis is a mental disorder characterized by a disconnection from reality where you can't tell what is and isn't real around you. This disorder that Senua has showcases exactly why this story could only be told through a video game, and what an emotional adventure it is. With video games being a deeply engaging and immersive platform, the direct interaction with Senua as she struggled along had me feeling for her, and alongside some excellent design decisions, experiencing the horror with her. Watching Senua develop over the course of my 6.5 hour journey was truly fascinating. To see how she handled her disorder and continued to fight on was both inspiring and amazing to watch unfold. Hellblade is the greatest single audio experience you will have this year, and probably the best one I can remember as a gamer. This isn't a takeaway from anything else in the game, but the sound truly makes it. Having your sight removed and needing to hear your way out of what may be a dark part of Senua's mind or a twisted cave you ended up in sounds simple on paper, but was intense on so many different levels. Instead of UI popping up constantly telling you to counter like in a Batman Arkham game, you listen to the voices in your head, which fits the narrative, the themes of the game, but also is a different mechanic as a whole. The music can be a range of dreary, dreadful, beautiful, and all oozing in atmosphere. I'm admittedly a sucker for vocals in game tracks, but the vocal tracks are so well timed within the narrative that each time they pop up, it feels special because of what is happening to the character, not because the game is trying to be self-aware and highlight that this is a big moment and you should care. Hellblade is also downright awe-inspiring in the visual department. Tons of times you're going to find yourself absorbing the gorgeous view, especially with the game's entire removal of UI. It made for not only an immersive experience, but also gave me a chance to absorb my surroundings in full. The animations are fantastic both in combat and cutscenes, all culminating to a very believable experience throughout the whole journey. The gameplay department is where Hellblade will develop its fair share of complainers. DMC Devil May Cry is such a robust and innovative combat system that I'm surprised how initially simple Hellblade is at the beginning of its game. In fact, your combat mechanics don't evolve all that much. It's really the enemies who have different styles of combat and mechanics which you should really be focusing on. Now, this game is nothing like the comparison I'm about to suggest, but it does in one way remind me of Dark Souls, in which it's a game that has a very simple combat scheme, and it all really boils down to watching what your enemy does rather than yourself. That doesn't make Hellblade any less fun to play. Combat in this game is simple yet satisfying, and I think that this is aided by the game's length, which is obviously another solid design choice. I wasn't getting bored of it, but if we double the length of the title, then a lot of things would have had to change for the sake of the game to make it more fun to play down the line in, for example, a 15-hour adventure, and one of them absolutely would have been the combat, for better or for worse. So I think the title's length fits well into a simplistic combat system that's really satisfying for the gamer itself. On the other side, you will be solving puzzles, and lots of them. Now, they are fairly easy. All you have to do is match up a rune symbol with the environment around you, and sadly they don't serve much of a narrative purpose, so there isn't much payoff with them, and it's really the only disengaging and disenchanting part about this whole game. It allows you to hear the voices talk amongst each other and build tension, so it works in the favor in one way, but I think there could have been another way to bring out that aspect of the game. It wasn't enough to ruin my experience, but it's definitely a flaw that will shine hard when gamers come back for a second playthrough or study this game years later. Regardless, this is a flaw I'm totally okay with for a game attempting and succeeding at doing something special. Hellblade successfully tackles mental illness at the same time as delivering a powerful story, the best goddamn audio of the year, and features satisfying combat. The puzzles do suck, but do not let that push you away from this title. If you love story and you love atmosphere and decent combat, this is $30 and I highly recommend you spend it. No, it's not very replayable unless you want to go back and collect all the lore stones you missed the first time around, but it's an impactful game and highlights exactly why our medium can be so special. That'll do it for my review for Hellblade. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game in the comments down below, as I know it's been out for a decent amount of time now. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content we create here. Other than that, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.